All right. Hello and welcome everyone to the Teen Engagement Blueprint Outreach That Works webinar. My name is Beth Yates. I'm the children's consultant from the Indiana State Library's Professional Development Office. I'll be the host and the question moderator for today. But today I'm excited to welcome Ryan Calhoun, young adult librarian at the Bremen Public Library here in Indiana, to share what has worked for him at his library. Before we begin though, I just have a couple more announcements. First of all, to register for other webinars or other trainings available from the Professional Development Office, please see the Indiana State Library's events calendar, which can be found on our website at www.in.gov/library, and then it's under Services for Libraries. This session is 1 hour, so you're eligible to receive 1 LEU for this presentation. If you're watching a recording of this webinar, instructions on how to obtain your LEU are in the video's description on YouTube. Or you can find those instructions on the Indiana State Library's continuing education site under LEU policies. But in short, when you watch a recording, someone in administration at your library should create a certificate for you, as they're the ones who can verify that you watched. All right, I think we're ready to get started. Please, everyone, help me welcome Ryan Calhoun of the Bremen Public Library. And take it away, Ryan.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Beth, for the introduction. Good morning to everyone. And if you're watching this recorded, depending on the day, good afternoon, good evening. So we are going to be talking about outreach today and what has worked for my building. Just to give you a little background about me, I am the current young adult librarian at Bremen Public Library. I've been working in public libraries since 2017. This is my third library that I've worked at. I started off in the adult world, so I took a little bit of a 180 turn there, where then I went to the Argus Library as my second library, and I was in children's, and then I got the job here to work with teens as our second young adult librarian in our history of our building. Another thing is, I am the leader of the Northern Indiana Teen Services Roundtable. So at the end, my email will be available. And if any of you would like to join that group, just let me know. We meet about quarterly, talk about all things teens. So we'll get that info out to you. Now, just to give you a little background information about the Bremen community is our population. We only service one township, and that services 8,873 according to the 2020 census. We have a pretty diverse community. We have a very high Hispanic and Amish population, as well as our school is very diverse as far as the needs that are there. So we have two schools that I service. We have Bremen Public Schools. It is a pre-K through 12 building, and we service about 1,500 kids with that. And then we also have a small parochial school called St. Paul's, where they have roughly about 50 some students there. It just kind of depends year to year. So what you all came here for is how to start your outreach journey. One thing I definitely want to start with is a big disclaimer that not all of this is going to work for everyone. I am very fortunate enough to have an admin in my building as well as an admin at both schools that support what we do and really encourage us to come into the classrooms, into the school at back to school nights and all those fun things. So we're going to show you some tips on how to kind of get involved with that if you're coming up with some roadblocks along the way. So get connected, reach out. So first things first, what you want to do is you want to find the organization, whether it's the school, Boys and Girls Club, it could be a church youth group, whichever one has the bulk of the youth. And you want to just introduce yourself. Send out a information thing about you, how long you've been at your library, what you're passionate about, some information about your library, because a lot of these teachers or these youth employees actually don't know what all the library has to offer. And sometimes that's a good way to get them in, at least to your building. Build a contact list from there. I always start with the admin, say, hey, this is a program that I kind of want to do. Is there anyone that would be interested? Then you schedule a meeting with them and find a liaison. So I'll email the principal, they'll give me a teacher, and that is my liaison. One thing that you definitely want to do is make sure that you listen. and don't pitch first when you meet with this liaison. Be like, what can we do for you? And they'll have plenty of ideas. If you go in, I find if you go in and you just say, this is what I want to do, this is when I want to do it, this is how it's going to be done, that's going to backfire on you. It's a little too aggressive of approach. So you just ask them, what needs do you have? How can we support you? Even if that just means creating like an internal interlibrary loan, expanding your educator cards out to those teachers. But bring your ideas as well. If they're kind of stumbling because like, well, I've never had the library reach out, I would love this service. Bring some ideas. Don't just show up with nothing, but you have to stay flexible. Their schedules, they've only got so many amounts of time within the day to get things done that you want to make sure that you're not just showing up and, it's nice to have fun, but you want to bring something to the lesson that they're trying to teach. Set clear partnership guidelines. I actually am working on a form right now, which I can send to Beth to send out to everyone about expectations. If I bring materials and materials are being destroyed at my outreach programs, we can document that and use that as a reason to suspend temporarily or permanently end the program with that host. Make sure you find who that liaison is. Make sure that there is a person with you at all times that is from that organization, not two people from your organization, but someone else from theirs, and just set out those guidelines so that they know what to expect. And if they're not compliant with it, then you can remove yourself from doing that program. So again, define the roles and expectations. Now, I'm going to show you some program ideas that have worked with my building. I'm going to give you a little more history as far as the relationship that we do have with the different groups that we do our outreach with. If anyone has any questions during any time of this presentation, please send a message in the chat and Beth will relay that to me because we will have plenty of time to be answering some questions. So some outreach programs that have worked with me. Start with the basics. Book clubs. Reach out to your English departments, reach out to your school librarians, media specialists, and ask them if there is an interest in book clubs. So you contact them, gauge the group, meet with staff members who will be your representative. Again, that liaison role. Make sure that they've got the time to be there with you at all times. Make sure they've got a backup person if they're sick or anything like that. Hold an interest meeting as well. This needs to be about student choice. We want to make sure that we're not just picking things that we want to read. We want to pick things that are going to interest the students as well. I just sent out my final thing for next school year about what genre would they like to read? Is there a specific author? Is there a specific book that they would like to read? I send that out in the end of February to go out to the students. We do a reminder in April, and then during spring break, which is right now, I actually post it on our social media and ask that students put in their recommendations that way. This is a huge hit. This is how you make more kids engaged. It's how you get them more to come in because it's selected by the students. But also one thing that you want to do is you want to encourage teachers or youth staff, if you're not doing this necessarily with a school, to be a part of it. I have 2 teachers that have consistently come for the 3 years I've had my high school book club. And it just kind of adds that little bit of humanity to the teachers. They're not just these people who are up there at the whiteboard droning on and on and on about a lesson. And we've had some of the best discussions when we have actually had those teachers in there. Choose a date and time and location that works for your school, your youth group, whichever one you're choosing to meet with. Be flexible. We are lucky that we have lunchtime that we can do that. And for my middle schoolers, we have something called study labs that works for them. It's right after the lunch period. I don't have as long with them, but we still get to accomplish some stuff. And again, stay flexible. Be prepared to change things up. There could be testing being done in a room that you're going to be in. There could be a school cancellation, so just keep track of those things. A program that I'm very, very proud of that we have started. One day I was at a teen advisory board meeting and it hit me that all 20 of my members were a athlete of either 2 or 3 sports. And one thing that I remember being a kid was how cool it was for, at the time, Dr. Seuss's birthday is what we called it, but now it's Read Across America. A high school student would come down and read to us. Well, here in our community, as I'm sure it is with many of yours, our athletes, especially in the small towns, are little celebrities, and they kind of set the tone for the next couple of years. So having already had that access to that many athletes, both esports, soccer, boys sports, girls sports, all the sports, I asked them if they would be interested in reading to elementary students. I then reached out to our school administration and said, hey, how would you like to do this? And it has been one of our most successful programs. We do this every Friday, except for when we're on spring break and stuff. I send out a thing to the school admin. They send out a survey to the students so that way they can sign up to be a reader. And it is so, so beneficial. The high school students are now knocking down my door to try to read. We have the teachers, the elementary teachers, every time I send out the form, it fills up in less than 24 hours. So if you have an opportunity to maybe not do this as an outreach program, but you could even bring some athletes in, the kids absolutely love it. They come in with their jerseys and stuff, and it's just always so much fun and it's well received. So one program I do with my middle
Ryan,
schooler, yes?
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Really quickly, back to the book club kits. I posted a link in the chat to the Indiana State Library's book club kits information because if you're interested in starting a book club, we do have a lot of teen titles, a lot of YA titles. So check that out. You get 15 books and you get them for, I can't remember what the loan period is now. It's at least 90 days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's at least 3 months, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and we use those all the time, especially with my middle schoolers. I just don't love them, but I don't trust them to bring back ILL books in good enough condition. So, so we use them. But yeah, use those state library resources because that's how we got started, and then we've been able to grow from it. I know even our adult department has used like Indiana Humanities as well as the state library resources. But like I said, one program that I do with my middle schoolers, because we do have that study lab time, is called Lunch Bunch. So we invite students in grades 6 through 8 on a 3-month rotating basis. So 1 month would be sixth grade, then seventh the next, then eighth, and then we switch back. And then we restart with a new activity. I've not been given any guidelines as far as the kind of programming to bring into the school. And like I said, as much as I would love to just go there and just have fun, this is technically an instructional time. It's a free time for them to, it's kind of like a study hall to go and meet with other teachers to get assistance. So I wanted to make sure that we were doing something at least literacy based. So after attending twice now, the Every Child Ready to Read sessions with Beth, that's kind of our model with the middle school students, and it has worked phenomenally. I mean, we have, I think at the lowest number I've ever had come to my lunch bunch program was 35 students. The highest I've had was 85. So again, that's why you need that other person in the room with you too to also help maintain control of the room. But we've done soup, salad, or sandwich, which is a communication thing. They have to argue, which they love. They have to debate. We've also done setting goals, which we do at the beginning of the year, where we read Sandra Boynton's Woohoo, You're Doing Great, and they have to do a vision board for what they hope to accomplish by the end of the month, but then what they hope to accomplish by the end of their sixth, seventh, or eighth grade year. Eighth graders then kind of get a reflection piece in April where we read Maybe, and they actually write letters to their future selves, and I hold those till they graduate. So it's a real cool little circle that we do there. But you got to keep it engaging. You got to have energy because for me, there's a lot of them. But you have to keep it engaging, interesting, and also ask them. They're going to tell you what they like and what they don't like. So ask them some kind of activities that they might be interested in. I've actually contacted our gym teachers for some advice on that, and that has worked out wonderfully. Another program that I actually started, and we use this program specifically for our ENL students, is Walking Wednesdays. So on one Wednesday a month, we take the playaways to the school. Excuse me. We take playaways to the school so that way they don't have to use their phones, because not all kids have access to Libby or Hoopla because they don't have library cards. And also with a lot of the phone policies in schools and with some legislation that's being brought to the table about phone use in schools, playaways is probably the best and safest option. We choose a location to walk around. Sometimes it's the gym. Now that we're getting warmer, we're going to go out to the track, and then we come back and we do a activity that is based off of the book. Now, we do not read or listen to the same book. So we have them listen to whatever book they want, and we have a different activity based off that. So for example, one of them we just did was they had to describe if their book was a mirror, window, or sliding glass door, which for those of you who know, that is a lot more detailed than just, I liked the book. It was okay, you know? So that gets them to really think about it, especially with my E&L students. This really opened up a lot of doors and kind of, broke down that wall. And I'm very proud of some of the stuff they had come up with, and they actually got to present it as well. The next one we did, they were super excited because they got their phones. We had to do playlist the story, and they had to find 5 songs that represented how they felt about the book. It could be the scene, a character, the book in its entirety. And that, again, was awesome. I got some good music recommendations from those students as well. A program that I do with my sophomores, because they do have a genre unit, and I am there the entire day when I do this, and they love me because I bring donuts, so it's always a fun time. But we do America Runs on Reading. So I provide a smorgasbord of books of all different genres. And what I do is I actually use this opportunity to walk them through how to use our catalog, as well as how to use one of our databases, which is Novelist Plus and K8 Plus. If they don't have a library card, they obviously cannot use Novelist, so it's important that we then segue into our catalog. From there, they get a menu and they go to each of the different genres, and we've got, the basics: science fiction, fantasy, romance. And on the back, there's subgenres. So we talk about what is a subgenre. And they learn a lot from that. And this year, because our E&L teacher is also our sophomore English teacher, she actually wants me to incorporate the windows, mirrors, and sliding glass doors part at the end. And we always have enough time for the students to do a silent reading time. Every time I do this program, I always tell them, like, if there's something that you can't find, I just now showed you how to put things on hold. If you have a library card, put on hold. I go back and there's at least a dozen or more requests for books. So again, there's that instant return on investment with this program. One that I am actually getting ready to do is my all-day school visits. These are very exhausting, and this is one of those things that I know not everyone is going to be able to do this. I actually take 4 whole days out of the year where I work with freshmen through seniors. I do freshmen and sophomores on a Tuesday, juniors and seniors on a Thursday, and I walk them through what is the library. So we will talk about the services that the young adult department offers, that we have a space for them, some resources that we have specifically for teens, and our volunteer services, that because we have a lot of kids that need confirmation hours or student council hours, walk them through how they can do those things. And then we also talk about what the library as a whole has to offer. At the end, we try to do this where we'll have in the fall like our Teentober event to talk about and kind of hype them up to get them into the library. And then this one will actually be getting ready for summer reading program. Now my seniors, they are obviously on their way out the door. So that means some of the information doesn't necessarily pertain to them, but I use this time to let them know about libraries. We ask them, hey, how many of you are going off to college? Raise your hand. Okay, well, utilize your campus library and utilize your public library if it's there. How many of you are staying in Bremen? Okay, stuff's not cheap. Get a library card. I know we love our Netflix, Disney, and Hulu and all that fun stuff and our Amazon Prime. I said, but when you're trying to get out in the world, sometimes it's just too expensive. Go get your library card and you can get movies, you can get books, you can get magazines. There's resources, the different databases that we have. And every time we do this, they're just shocked at what we've got. So again, there's that instant return on investment by doing programs like this, and you get them hyped up for summer reading. Every time we do these visits, we go over our Hoopla limit. very quickly because it's like they remember, oh, we have that service. I'm going a little fast today, so I got to slow her down. But this is the proof right here. I joined Bremen Public Library in fall of 2021, and this is what just the teen outreach, excluding Athletes for Literacy, looks like in just the 5 years roughly that I have been here. You will notice in 2023, after 2023, there was a big drop. I used to do a cafeteria visit where I set up a puny little table right outside the cafeteria, and I got to engage with the students, and that was a lot of fun because there's a lot of kids that I got to meet, and they're just awesome. But they're focused on lunch. They're not really getting any information. So even though the engagement looks good, that return on investment wasn't as good as me being allowed to go into the English classrooms for those all-day visits. Um, excuse me. As you can see, we already in um, 2026 have over 400. I have not updated it since last month. And that just goes to show you the trust that we have with our partners in all this. We partner with our Boys and Girls Club. We partner with our middle school and high school. Our children's department does outreach now. Our adult department has really stepped up with their outreach. So that's kind of become kind of our bread and butter here at Bremen Public Library. Now, I know that was a little quicker than I wanted it to be, but are there any questions that anyone has for me?
Yeah, as they are doing that, so we did have one request for like a list of your programs. So Ryan, you and I will get together after this and
Yep.
let's talk about either a list or maybe we can share your slides or something like that so that they
Yep,
have that to take with them. I'd
absolutely.
love it if you could talk a little bit about um, so a lot of those programs are outside of the library, right?
Correct.
So how has your like administration supported that? Or have you found it a struggle to get out of the library to do that sort of stuff?
No. It's definitely, you just got to have meetings. You got to make sure, like, your desk shift is covered and so on and so forth. We did recently get a new director. She's not been here even a year yet. So some of this was already kind of established and was already kind of an expectation of
Got
us. Now it's just kind of, you have to prove that that again, that return on investment is there. But no, as long as you communicate with, in my case, as long as I communicate with my director, what we're doing. I give her kind of a play-by-play of what we're looking to do, what we hope to gain from this. And I've so far not had pushback, and I don't see in the future where we would. She seems to be very passionate about outreach, and that's why other departments have also started to get involved more, especially since I know not everyone has a good relationship like that with their schools right now. So, but yeah, no, I've had zero pushback.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's so important to remember sometimes we forget that first of all, outreach can be more than just going and doing story time at a daycare or something. And that if we're having trouble reaching those teens in our community, and we can't get them to come into the library, going out to them is sometimes the best option if you can make it work. We have had a couple of questions roll in, so let me scroll up here. Let's see. For the first one, someone wanted to know for the Wednesday walking, were you saying that each student is listening to a different book? I'm just trying to
Correct.
understand how you came up with discussion points.
Yeah, so we don't have discussion questions. We have an activity based off of it. Excuse me. So everyone reads a different book, and then we do an activity based very, very loosely on it. It kind of gives them that freedom. Like next week when we meet after spring break, we're gonna do a little bit different. We're gonna listen to our audiobook on the track, but I'm actually gonna do musical chairs with other books. So that way they're kind of forced to try new genres because I know these kids are once they find something, they stick with it. But no, we keep it pretty open with the activity, so there's no discussion questions.
Let's see. We had someone else just say that they're trying to reach out to the elementary schools, and your information about programs is helping them a lot. So thanks for that. Um, Someone else says, in addition to the outreach programs, do you have any tips for programs and activities that have worked well for you inside the building?
Oh my goodness, yes. Excuse me. Teentober, that is more stressful than summer reading for me personally. We average anywhere from 50 to 80 teenagers at our end party. It's kind of a lock-in situation. We stay open later for that program. My teen advisory board actually comes up with the slogans for our reading challenge as well as our end party this year. I can announce it officially. We are going to do a Halloween theme slash spiders. So we actually have a meeting next week to determine those themes so I can start working on the graphics and stuff like that. But Teentober, that is my best advice for you guys. Show these teens that they have a whole month out of the year, which still is not enough in my opinion, but it's a good start. A whole month where it's just for them. It's like, yeah, your brother who's in fifth grade, sorry, he can't come. He's not in grades 6 through 12 or whatever you guys consider young adult or teen for your age group. It just it gives them something because a lot of the stuff. That's why I do that. America Runs on Reading. I decorate the room. It looks like Dunkin' Donuts threw up in there. Because once you get to that middle school, high school level, they don't get the cute, fun things. And at first they're like, oh, this is lame, but then they actually have a lot of fun with it. It brings back a lot of good memories. But no, focus on Teentober. Let them know that is a month all for them. Send out little newsletters to the school if they allow that. Community boards. But yeah, Teentober has been definitely one of the overall programs. I know it's not a specific program during the day, but it's a whole reading initiative, but that's the one that's worked for us.
Yeah, so Teentober, you do a lot of activities for them in the library during that month,
Yeah,
or is
I
it a
have
reading
almost a
program?
program every day.
Oh, wow.
Now obviously, like with me, I find that if it's a registered program, we ask maximum 10 because teens are a little bit more expensive. They don't just want to glue a piece of paper together. So I got to keep it, within budget. And we're getting to the end of the year, so it's getting a little skimpy there. But yeah, I now have an assistant, so this is new for me. I've been running the show by myself for 4 years until I got her. So I'm actually looking to increase the programming offerings, more passive programming and stuff. But yeah, we theme a lot of it off of whatever our theme is that the kids come up with, and just kind of go from there. I mean, I can't even give you an example right now of what we're going to do because I haven't met with the teens yet.
Do you do a lot of co-planning with your teens? Is that
Oh yeah,
something else?
with
That's
those big
amazing.
events, absolutely. I actually every year I send out a Google form. And
Mhm.
I'm like, this is your thing that if all of a sudden you have a 2 a.m. thought and you have a program idea, you put it in there and it will email me and I can look at it and we can have a discussion about it. I actually have two middle school girls on Teen Advisory Board who are going to be presenting at our next meeting, which is a first. We've never had them present about the importance of fidget toys in programming, what we should get, and we're going to talk about the budget of it. So they're very involved with our programming.
That's great. Related to that, there are some other questions above that I will get back to, I promise. But since this is related, someone wanted to know, did you start the teen advisory board at your library or was it already in place when you started? And if you did start it, how did you get the initial engagement with that?
I started it here because, like I said, I was a staff of one, and eventually I'm going to be old and decrepit and not know anything fun. So who better to tell us what we should be doing for programming than the people that we are trying to do programs for?
Yes.
So I actually had four very amazing volunteers because the volunteer program was here when I started. We rebranded it to Volunteens, but I've added Teen Advisory Board. So we have two different volunteer groups that you can join. But we had four very amazing volunteers. And I said, you want to give this a shot? And they're like, sure. We were so not organized the first year. It was rough. I went home in tears after a meeting one day because I was like, what am I doing? I'm wasting their time. And now we have over 20 students involved in our teen advisory board. And how I got them engaged was some of them were already here, but then out of those four, three have left now because they've graduated. They're off doing amazing, wonderful things, and I'm so proud of them. But the outreach, that's how.
Yeah.
Again, outreach is kind of the thing that gets them in. It's like, hey, they get to know you, and then they start coming into the library, and then it starts increasing your in-house programming as well. I also kind of scouted some kids. We actually, there's a lot of firsts at Bremen Library for me. One of my former teen advisory board students is now a coworker of mine. So that's always
Yay.
so fun. Yep, I'm just like, it's like a proud dad moment almost. But yeah, so reaching out to them. But I also scout for some kids. I actually have one kid that, again, a first, has three professional references from the
Oh,
school about how they feel he would be a good fit for teen advisory board. So I'm going to be meeting with him in the next couple weeks to see if he's interested.
oh wow. Yeah, that's one of the things I sometimes recommend if people are having trouble getting teens to join like a teen advisory board. Like you said, getting out there, of course. Also, um, coming out, maybe they can get volunteer hours for doing it or
Yep.
something, and so maybe you make it kind of not exclusive, but they have to have a teacher's recommendation. So it becomes
Yep.
more of like an official thing
Hmm.
that they can put on their college applications or
Oh
whatever.
yeah. Oh yeah. And
Um,
we've not gotten to we have a loose interview process, but we've not gotten to the point now. If I had like five kids turn in an application, we have to go into an interview process.
mm,
But one thing I am kind of working on is I really do want like a teen advisor. And this would be the kid or teen, shouldn't call them kids, they get mad at me, who would attend board meetings with me to kind of see how things are run that way. And I might actually ask them to speak. So that's kind of something. It's not finalized yet. I got to wait till after summer reading. I got too many irons in the fire right now.
mm,
But that's something else that you can do again to have that role, that involvement. We do not do officers. I will say that. I mean, if we do the teen advisor, that'd be the closest thing to an officer, but we don't have president, vice president, secretary, anything like that because
mm,
the kids are just so busy. I can't rely on every single kid to be here. And that's why we
mm,
also have 20 members because when we had our four, we didn't have quorum, you know?
mm.
So,
Gotcha. We had a couple of questions along the lines of, let me see if I can kind of combine these. Uh, Basically, if a library is having trouble getting the school to respond to them, do you have any advice? And I'll throw in my own advice really fast too, because when I worked in a public library, I also would struggle sometimes getting like administrators to respond to me, and sometimes even the school librarian, I would have trouble depending on the school.
yeah.
And so I started just reaching directly out. Like I decided I wanted to do a book talk sort of thing for fifth grade classrooms. So I reached out to fifth grade English teachers and said, hey, here's a thing I'm willing to do. I know you have a genre reading assignment. I can come and bring some examples and leave the books.
Yep.
And they said, yes, please. And then it grew. So kind of more directly reaching out to the teachers instead of the
Mhm.
admin might be one way, but Brian, do you have any other advice?
Yeah, so I've heard that definitely like in our area, there's a lot of places that it's almost impossible to reach out to the teacher directly. They've got their email stuff so locked down that it's crazy. But one thing that you could also do, it is required by law, I do believe that juniors and seniors in Indiana have a college and career fair because that's something else we're getting ready to do. Reach out to the guidance office. We're a job. We are an option. And some have gone the college route, some have not, to get these positions. So reach out to them. That's how you can do it. If there's a community engagement, if they don't want you in the classroom, be like, well, you're having a back to school night and these are new families. This is the library. That way, then you can kind of get in. Don't necessarily focus on one specific group. And then you'll start making connections, Um, they'll start asking for some things. They'll know who you are. And I think that's just it. And don't give them more work. If you give them more work, your outreach is going to tank you know, just because they're busy, they've got X amount of time, they're on contract hours. My schedule personally is a little more flexible. But yes, as far as when it comes to high school, that's one that you could get direct involvement with the students, but there's got to be a back to school night that you can go to and represent the library, and then hopefully meet your superintendent, your principals, your English teachers, and all that stuff.
Great. Okay, let's see. A couple more questions here still. Someone wanted to know, back to Teentober, do you focus on evening times or weekends, like when you're planning out your programming, I guess, is probably.
So that's going to change a little bit. Like I said, I now have an assistant, so we're going to be able to do um, some things a little bit differently. We usually stay clear of weekends because it's pretty packed. The fall here in Bremen has more than 5 different sporting events that are in season. So that really tanks some of our numbers. So we try to get more of that after school crowd. We try to do, I want to do, and I'm so sorry to one of my coworkers if she watches this. I want to do a It's Fall Y'all kind of a thing, and like, but it's like YA. Kind of thing for our spring break, because our spring break is only a long weekend, and then you can have those non-traditional times, so we can do a noon program instead of it having to be 4 o'clock or later. But no, we don't usually do weekend ones. Plus, that's just because how we're scheduled. If you work on a Friday, you don't work on a Saturday, so we're split in half. Um, Definitely not opposed to it. Again, just kind of know your building, know your community, and do what works best for you guys.
Mm. Let's see here. Going back to the last question, we just had a few comments chiming in with advice, including one who said that they attend school board meetings and that's how they've made
Ooh.
connections with their superintendent and a assistant superintendent. If you can make that connection, then,
Oh yeah.
obviously they're over the whole school system. So that's a great
Oh
person
yeah.
to know.
I know I have a direct line to our superintendent. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, because we're in the middle of we're just getting ready to wrap up our very first one book one community. Thus why I'm holding the book The Anxious Generation. Our local Bowen Center, which is another great resource to reach out to for some engagement. But they purchased a copy of The Amazing Generation for every middle school student in Bremen.
Great.
So we did book studies with them. So that's super awesome. Another outreach opportunity there.
Let's see, a couple more questions. One person is interested in whether you have ever had a gaming tournament team program. And if so, do you have any
So
advice?
yes, we are lucky that we actually have a person who works for Nintendo in our community.
Oh,
So we have Mario Kart tournaments. We actually have one this Friday. It's very nonchalant, real chill and stuff, but he will bring in a bunch of Nintendo Switches, a bunch of different games and stuff, and some merch, and just let the kids experience it, which is really good for me because then I can see what they like and I can figure out what we should purchase for our Nintendo Switch or different kinds of games because I do plan on purchasing another game system. But we have done Mario Kart seems to be the most popular one, and we did do a Naruto battle
cool.
royale um, for anime. I don't think we're gonna do it this year just because there's just a lot of visits coming up. But that was another one that worked out really well. They tried to beat me in it, but that just didn't work. So yeah, there's another gaming one. But other than that, those are the only two that we've done.
All right. Same person is also curious for more information. I think you mentioned a teen volunteer program. Is that
Yes,
separate from your teen advisory group?
yes. So this
And
is this is my spiel on that. I'm going to talk to y'all like you're the kiddos. So essentially, we have our volunteers and we have our teen advisory board. Both of them are so equally important to our library. They just have very different roles for the most, I mean, some different roles. I shouldn't say very different. They both require an application. They both require, parent signature and all that fun stuff. Um, Volunteers is more for those students who need service hours for other organizations, whether that is confirmation, probation, um, NJHS, student council, something that there's a window of time. Teen Advisory Board, they'll have monthly meetings, they help plan programs, they're kind of the face of the library. So it's a little more involved. You have to want to be in it more than that. Because once I'll get, let's see, probably in October, I will get a huge influx of eighth graders because it'll be time for them to start their confirmation hours. But yeah, we have two of those programs here, and I think we have in total 35 volunteers altogether. That includes Teen Advisory Board and the volunteers.
Awesome. And the person, they also were curious how you had created that program. Did you create the volunteer program?
No, our previous director was the one who created that, and then I've just kind of tweaked it to make the language a little more for Bremen. Like we now have requirements where you have to be a Bremen student or St. Paul's student. If you are a homeschool family, because we do have a very big homeschool population here as well, you have to reside in German Township because whether you're teen advisory board or volunteers, you are speaking for the teens in this community. And as much as I love our neighboring kiddos, and I'm so thankful that they come to our library and do our programs, they're not the ones who are here all the time like these kids are. So we had to put some restrictions because we were running into some issues of people sending kids over, and it was just an issue. It was just an issue.
All right. Let's see. Another question. How do you help teens transition from your program when they age out? So I guess from the
So
teen advisory group, maybe?
leaving the teens or going into the teen group.
I'm thinking moving out of like getting too old for it.
Okay, so first of all, it's always a sob fest. I'm a crier, you know. When you see these kids grow up and stuff. But no, it's like I actually kind of take them on a tour of things if they're wanting to. I let them know it's like, listen, it's like eventually I'm going to be good and gone. And are you going to stop coming to the library? No, I hope not. I hope you're not just coming here to see me. I hope you're coming here because of the resources that we have. So letting them know about those databases that can help them in their adult lives, stuff that they haven't probably thought about. Like I talk about the legal documents database, which the name has escaped my brain. I tell them about Chilton and stuff. So with my seniors for this next visit, we'll go a little bit more in depth to some of those databases because they're viewed as more adult, even though anyone can use them. And it's just having an open conversation. I introduce them to our head of adult services, be like, hey, it's like, I'm also your librarian, but this is the person who is going to be kind of taking care of your needs because you're just moving on. You're growing, and that's a fantastic thing. Some kids take it very hard.
Oh, well, that's amazing though that you have such relationships with them that everybody is sad. you know. Um. Hey, more questions. They just keep rolling in. That's
I'm
awesome.
Bring
Yeah.
them. We're ready.
Someone would like to know, do you ever cap the number of volunteers that you accept?
So for the volunteers, no, because like I said, I pretty much have the schedules figured out when we're going to get an influx of people. Confirmation is probably my biggest one. That's the closest we've ever been to capping. But at this time, no. We tried to cap our teen advisory board at 12, but then we ran into one very big issue, and that was track. I think more than half of my teen advisory board is on track. So when they have a track meet, I have no teen advisory board.
Oh,
you know so you have to pay attention to their schedules. You have to look at the musicals. You have to look at sporting events, academic events. That's probably the disadvantage slash huge advantage of a small community is it's not like the bigger schools where you play football and you focus on your academics. You do marching band and you focus on your academics. We have kids that are 3 sport athletes. I have 2 kids that are actually doing 4 sports in one season in their in one school year and stuff, as well as academic teams and stuff. So it's not uncommon to have your quarterback out on the field during a band performance in his uniform for football, So you
yeah.
just got to be aware of that, and that's why I want the numbers kind of high. Because then we do average about 7 to 10 kids attending each meeting, which is enough to vote.
Also from a very small town, and I also remember those days of the football player going out for the marching band in the middle of the game, etc. Fun times.
Oh yeah, I have a kid that's currently on. I'm very proud of him, but I'm like, man, you're going to turn into me. He currently is on about 12 different clubs.
Let's see. We have a couple questions that are, again, kind of similar. They want to know, let's see here, what kind of programs are the volunteers doing that are different for teen advisory, I think they mean. And then also, other than helping with programming, what do you have your volunteers do? So I guess basically, what sorts of things are you having the volunteers do?
Yeah, so the volunteers, they don't necessarily get to help out with programming all the time. That's definitely more of a teen advisory board thing. That does not mean it doesn't happen. It just depends on the schedule because we do schedule them out so that way staff knows when they're coming in. Um, but we have stuff, I mean, there's always instruments that need to be cleaned from one of our story times that our children's librarian does. We have, this can sound really weird, but we have a bathtub in our children's department. It's a clawfoot bathtub. The kids love to sit in there and read. That thing can always be cleaned. So they kind of help out with some of that stuff, especially when you start hearing all the sniffles and the coughs and stuff. We have them fold our brochures. We have them cut out things for us if they're good. Because trust me, I had a kid with a paper cutter managed to cut it in a curve. I don't know how that happened. So, so it's like know what their limits are and stuff. And we also have them front. I actually have some kids that for young adult, I feel confident enough for them to shelve. They just put the book down so that way I can go through and check their work. It just kind of depends on what we've got going on that day, but there's always the dusting, the basic cleaning, because we're not running a little slave labor here. Um, what else is there? Disc cleaning. We've had them do that. And sometimes what I'll have them do is go do a book display. What are you reading? With my volunteers, sometimes if there's 15 minutes left and I don't have anything left for them to do, I will kind of treat them like a teen advisory board member and ask them what programs would they like to see at the library, or what's something that you think we're not hitting the mark on. And trust me, they have things to say. So it just kind of depends, but I'm in charge of the volunteers, but anyone on staff can request a volunteer to
Oh,
assist with something. So that's very important that you have that relationship with your other departments and other staff members. So you're like, okay, I've got so and so coming in, and they're like, oh, wait, I know this one can cut a straight line. I need them to help out with my bulletin board. And I'm like, okay, when they come in, I say, go report to so and so.
um, all right. And then we have, I think maybe one more at the moment, and then we might have hit the end of them. I also want to mention that Jennifer gave us some great advice and reminded us that sometimes the teachers you don't immediately think of can be really good contacts in your
Yep.
schools too. She says she's used the band director and history teachers before. And then actually also Jennifer said, bringing coffee and donuts to a meeting with teachers is also a great idea. So just a couple other things I wanted to make sure weren't missed. Okay, last question as of the moment anyway, is when you're doing your outreach programs at the school, like Walking Wednesdays, how do you open that up to students? Like, do you have them register? Is there a cap on the number of people who can register or attend? Or is it just kind of a whoever's there?
So for I got to think because there's so many options. So
If you want to,
for,
Walking Wednesdays is an example they
okay,
mentioned.
Walking Wednesdays, that's the E&L class.
Oh, okay.
So I'm in the classroom with them. So that's anywhere from 15 to 20 some students. That is something that I would actually like to bring to the library as a program, especially over the summer, because I mean, I don't want the kids just being on their screens all day long. Get
Mhm.
them outside. But that one is a class one. High school book club. We are lucky that it is one of the English teachers, and she's also a board member here. She keeps track of the books. We get 17 copies of the books and stuff. So it's not necessarily a sign up. It's a, if you want to read it, come read it. If you don't, you don't, because we don't want pressure on the kids. They've got enough pressure. Middle school book club, we do a rotating book discussion versus literacy activity. So like we're going to be talking about Tolkien and map making and all that fun stuff. This month for our book club. And I only have them for 30 minutes during that time. And that is, they're allowed to attend that if They have passing grades, no apps, like attendance is good, and behavior has to be good in order to go to that. The all-day visits, I'm in the English classrooms all day. I do 2 grades in one class period that's freshmen, sophomores, and then juniors and seniors. I'm trying to think what else we do. Boys and Girls Club, again, that's in a classroom setting. So yeah, a lot of my stuff is in the classroom. There's not anything that I necessarily have to have registration for. So that's why I try not to bring too many materials because, like I said, I could have 35 kids or I could have 85. So, and it's about setup, and 30 minutes is not enough time to do some of those activities with particularly middle school.
Great. All right, I'm gonna go and turn on my camera. I have put I'm gonna do this again, but I'm putting the LEU request form in the chat just because I want to recognize that we are getting towards the top of the hour. And I think we are mostly wrapped up. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording while we have this opportunity. I want to thank Ryan. Folks, if you want to stick around, if anyone else has a few more questions after we stop the recording, please feel free to stay and put those in. We can stay at least until 11 o'clock. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Thank you again to Ryan. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this.